Welcome back to page 121, or welcome to page 121 as the case may be. Today is the first of what I hope will be a long series of videos on comic books. If you read my original profile for the channel, I talk about how I've been a role player for 40 years, but I've been a comic book collector for 50. I don't pretend to be an expert, and this isn't going to be about the behind the scenes stuff that happened in this book or between this creative team. It's going to be about the books themselves, and I'm going to give impressions of how I felt about them when they first came out or when I first encountered them. I started collecting in 72, but I of course have many comics to go back earlier than that. So I wasn't always there at the newsstand picking up the copy when it came out, but I certainly did have first impressions on them, and that's really what I want this channel to reflect. So welcome aboard. I hope you like it. Today we're going to take a look at a favorite of mine, Contest of Champions. This from 1982. It's 40 years old this year. That's why one of the reasons I chose it. The other reason I chose it is there's an editing error in this book that I'll reveal at the end. But when I say book, I'm sorry. This is Marvel's first mini-series, 3 books. And there's an editing error in book 3, and I'm going to take a look at that and why that's important. One other thing, there are spoilers in this video, and there are going to be spoilers on this channel whenever I talk about comic books. If you haven't read this and want it to be new and a surprise, then I advise you to tune out now. So having been warned, Contest of Champions from 1982 by Marvel Comics, today on page 121. Contest of Champions by Marvel Comics, 1982. This was a fun look at the Marvel Universe in the early 80s. The story itself the story idea is by Mark Gruenwald, Bill Mantlo, and Stephen Grant. The script was by Bill Mantlo, pencils by John Romita Jr. John Romita Jr. at the time was a fairly new rising star in Marvel Comics. The editors were Mark Gruenwald and Tom DeFalco, and the editor-in-chief was Jim Shooter. I'm not going to go into love or hater of Mr. Shooter. That's not the point of this video. All I want to do is take a fun look at a comic book and how I felt about it, as much as I can recreate how I felt about it when I bought it in 1982. The idea behind this entire series of videos is not that I'm an expert on comic books. I'm just a guy that's been reading them a long time, and here's how I feel about them. So I did not go on the internet and do a bunch of research on this. I suspect this was originally intended as either a single large book or a 2-part book, or maybe even a longer than 3-part book. Marvel chose to make it a 3-part book, and it was their first miniseries. So here we have the heroes going through their everyday lives. The Wasp is on the rings, didn't know she could do the rings, and they're working out as a group, and suddenly they vanish. The Soviet super soldiers against the Red Ghost, they burst through the wall, they're going to destroy his lair, and suddenly they vanish. Fantastic Four guests at a testimonial dinner, they vanish. And so on and so forth for the next several pages. All the various characters of Marvel, all the heroes, are gone. And where are they? According to the Beast, hey, where the heck are we? That's a nice double splash page showing Marvel Universe in 1982. This book was a great intro for anybody that was just starting out comic books, and I think that's what its intention was, is to give a nice introduction of who the characters were and kind of let them see all these different characters together. There were some attempts at some newer characters here, Defensor and Arabian Knight. Some of these were introduced in this book. Some of these were already existing. A few had been in Hulk and a few other books. The idea was to just kind of get you to know the Marvel Universe. Why are they all gathered? Well, it's the Grandmaster, the Master of Games. He's been in several Marvel comics to this point. He pits Earth's heroes against something else, usually in some kind of chess-like game. And it's the Grandmaster versus the Unknown. The Grandmaster's brother, the Collector, was killed a few years earlier in the excellent Michael/Korvac saga in Avengers. Grandmaster would see him alive again. The Unknown says, I can grant you that power, but first a contest. So they agree to terms. There will be a Golden Globe of life. It will be split into 4 parts scattered throughout the world, Earth, and The heroes will contest for it. Whoever touches the globe or claims it first, physically claims it, wins. Earth itself is held in stasis for 24 hours. No one will be harmed or go forward in anything. If the heroes fight against the Grandmaster, then they won't be released. If the heroes cooperate, win or lose, the Earth will be released and things will go on as normal. The unknown, for their part, if the Grandmaster loses, the unknown gets to destroy the Grandmaster utterly. So it's an immortal life for an immortal life. So now we go on. Here's a little recap of how the Grandmaster's brother, the Collector, died. And now we go on to the picking of the teams. There are the teams. I'm going to go into those in a moment. There's the division of the Golden Globe. Not the awards for movies. And then there's a very nice Marvel Superheroes 1982 section in these issues that tells us who the characters are. Just a short paragraph about each. I liked these, and these were before the Marvel Superhero A to Z books had come out. Those came out later in 84 and then 85. So this is a great way, kind of a gateway, to get into Marvel comic books. Here we go to issue 2. The game begins. So in issue 2, we have the Grandmaster and the Unknown's teams. Here we go. Team the first. For the Grandmaster, we have Talisman of Australia, Daredevil, of course the US, and Darkstar of the Soviet Union. Yes, Soviet Union, when this was written. The Unknown's team, Sunfire from Japan, the Invisible Girl, not even Invisible Woman yet, from the Fantastic Four, and Iron Fist. And they are in the frozen north, and they have to contest for this piece. This is a pretty good fight. It's pretty much the longest in the set. The various heroes split up, and they try to capture it. This had a nice Justice League feel to it. The old Justice League books where they'd split the team up, and we'd get a chapter what each team was doing. This had a nice flavor of that. And here we go. The heroes are contesting for the Golden Globe. And as things progress, the ice is sundered, and there's the globe floating in the water. Daredevil shoots out his billy club and captures it. So congratulations, the first contest goes to the Grandmaster. Now we go to fight the second in a ghost town, presumably in the American Southwest. The Unknown's team is Iron Man, Arabian Knight from the Middle East, and Sabra, the Israeli superheroine. And the Grandmaster's team, Defensor, South America. They don't say, I don't think, specifically where. She-Hulk, and then Captain Britain, of course. It's an interesting look. They were trying to be international, and I'm not going to go into that. It didn't land real well, even at the time, 40 years ago. Some of these characters seemed a little stereotypical, but I'm not going to go into that. That's not what this video is about. We go to the big battle going on. I love that little action pic of Captain Britain, and we end up with She-Hulk getting blasted by Sabra, Iron Man versus Defensor, and then the Arabian Knight versus Captain Britain. And then we end up in a blacksmith shop, an old abandoned blacksmith shop, and Iron Man versus She-Hulk for a couple panels till he zaps her and she's out. And Defensor comes in, or I'm sorry, Arabian Knight comes in and says, there's the Golden Globe. He grabs it, and now we have 1 point for the Unknown. So the score is tied at 1-1. So now we go into book 3. Here's another look, before I go to book 3, some more about our heroes from 1982. This is just a neat book. It's a great way. I was already 10 years into the Marvel Universe, so I knew the characters, but it was still a great intro book. If anyone was looking for that, or if you're looking for it now, how Marvel was in the 80s, this is a great gateway. So, Contest of Champions number 3, and the winner, Death. So, a little recap of the story to begin, and then we go to our next battle, Siege in the City of the Dead. We're in China for this one. The Unknown's team is Vanguard of the Soviet Union, Angel of the X-Men, and Black Panther from Wakanda. The Grandmaster's team, Wolverine of the X-Men / Canada, The Thing, Ben Grimm, Fantastic Four, and Le Peregrine, who is kind of a martial arts using angel type character. So they decide to split up and look for the Golden Globe themselves. and we get a couple of good fights. The one fight in this one I really enjoyed. I wanted to see Wolverine against Black Panther for the longest darn time, and finally we did. So it's a pretty good fight. Wolverine decides to go straight out and start using his claws, which is kind of weird. But as he says in the book, he doesn't play games. So he's actually trying to murder the Black Panther while they're playing a game. So then we got Vanguard versus the Thing here, which is a fight I always wanted to see. It didn't disappoint. It's a pretty good one. So the Thing defeats Vanguard, and then we get Wolverine versus the Panther. That kind of comes out as a draw. And then the Thing finds Wolverine and Panther together, tell the Thing where to look, and boom, there's the Golden Globe. So the Thing captures it. And now the score is Grandmaster 2, Unknown 1. And we go to the fourth and final contest, because in any contest, you always want to have even numbers. There's no chance of a tie, right? Well, that was a strange choice, too, which makes me think this was supposed to be longer than it was. So for the Unknowns team, we have Storm of the X-Men, Shamrock of Ireland, and the Collective Man of China. The Grandmasters team is Sasquatch of Canada, the Canadian group Alpha Flight. Why did I say Alpha Strike? Alpha Flight, Captain America, who is well known, and Blitzkrieg of West Berlin. That's right, this was written when Berlin was still split. So the heroes go about their stuff. It's a pretty good fight between Storm and Blitzkrieg. And Cap deals with Shamrock. Shamrock's power is luck. Wherever she is, things break her way and against her opponent. Cap's chasing her, and suddenly a python's in the way, and she runs right past the python, but it stops and it entangles Cap. Collective Man has a neat power. He can draw all the power of the Chinese people to himself into one mighty blow, but then he passes out. So as the fight is continuing, Captain America sees the Golden Globe. He's about to grab it, but as luck would have it, Shamrock is there. She claims it. Final score, Grandmaster 3, Unknown 1. Wait a minute. Wait, didn't I say that Shamrock was on the Unknowns team? I sure did. I remember reading this, and I went back and I said, wait a minute, that's a tie. It was a tie. The final score should have been Grandmaster 2, Unknown 2. So that was kind of a fun moment. That's an editing error, which is why I bothered calling out who the editors were. And I know this has been written about many times online. You can find a bunch of information about it. It's a famous editing oops, but it doesn't take away from the overall effort for me. It's still a fun book to read. So the winner takes none. We get together. There's the 4 parts of the Golden Globe. They reassemble it, and everyone feels uneasy around the Unknown. They haven't figured out what her deal is. Sue Richards is able to sneak up with the help of Talisman, sneak up behind the Unknown and unmask her. And what does she unmask but death? Who but death could grant the return of life to an immortal? So Grandmaster says, yeah, I knew it was death all along. So Death hands him the Golden Globe and says, here, you have the power to bring back your brother. Oh, by the way, to bring him back, you have to sacrifice your life. So to be a life for a life. And Grandmaster says, wait a minute, that wasn't our deal. And actually she says, all I promised was to give you the power to bring him back. I didn't say you had to. But then she changes it further and says, if you give me the lives of all the heroes here, if you agree to that, then I will only take their lives and restore your brother, and you and your brother will live. Grandmaster says, that's not fair. I promised the heroes they'd go free if they cooperated. They did. Take my life, restore life to the collector. And she does. This goes on in a few more books for the next few years, trying to get the Grandmaster back. It's fun. And then the book ends. Everybody's back where they were and kind of scratching their head about what happened. And then we go to a final page of the various recap of the heroes again. And again, this is an outstanding look at Marvel in 1982. So I recommend it to anybody who is maybe getting introduced to this time in Marvel. This would be a great way to go into it. So there we have it on a great ad for the old Dungeons and Dragons in the old Marvel comic books. So there we have it. Contest of Champions. Love it or hate it, I love it. I enjoyed reading this when I got it in 1982. I did catch the error right away, but I still thought it was an excellent series of books. It got me very excited about the new era of miniseries that was happening already at DC and just starting out at Marvel. And in fact, our next one up would be the first Hercules miniseries. I'll cover that in the future. So there you have it. Just someone talking about comic books. Not looking to grind axes or claim to be an expert. I'm just a guy who read them and liked them. So if you have any comments or questions or anything, or criticisms, as long as you're nice about it, I don't mind them at all. Please go ahead and comment below. And that's it for today on page 121. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.